Here at SkillCapped, our goal is to enable you to succeed in competitive PvP. This means that mastery and expertise is the name of the game, but to master a given spec in WoW can involve hundreds of hours of research and game time, and we wouldn't have it any other way. But World of Warcraft is a game that sells itself on its variety, so yeah, maybe it could grow a little repetitive playing the same spec in the same set of small arenas day in and day out. Alts are a way to put a fresh spin on the game, to experience something slightly different, or something entirely new. Alts give you another way to play with friends. And of course, alts provide an opportunity to see the game from an enemy's point of view. You gain a deeper understanding of your enemy, and that improves your game knowledge across the board. Obviously, alts have been a thing for all of WoW's history, but the popularity of alts in PvP is often dictated by how accessible the gear is. Vanilla was a less alt-friendly experience than Legion. The last few expansions have struck a strange blend of enormous grinds tempered with aggressive catch-ups. We could literally send Conquest gear to our alts for most of Shadowlands. That ought to be alt-friendly, but the need to level that gear up meant that the experience was still lame. As you may have seen in our gearing guide, Dragonflight has removed all borrowed power systems that tie player power to other forms of progression, like Covenant Renown or Legendaries. In Dragonflight, alts don't rely on catch-ups. Instead, the actual progression curve is such that there is not a significant power spectrum that would necessitate a major catch-up. Dragonflight has also implemented bind on account honor tokens. Despite only being honor tokens, these things are actually more impactful than the conquest boxes of Shadowlands. This is all while the time it takes to level a character is at an all-time low. Taken as a whole, Dragonflight is one of the most alt-friendly expansions for PvP that we've ever seen. And learning alts has never been easier thanks to skillcap.com, where our courses are like power-ups for your characters and quickly teach you all the fundamentals needed to make playing your alt feel just as natural as playing your main. This includes damage and healing guides that teach you the same rotations being used by pro players. And with our new Master in Minutes videos, you can learn the advanced tricks on any class you play without needing to grind countless hours of arena first. Altogether, this means you can get ahead of the competition, whether it's on your main or on a fresh alt. Everything is backed up by our money-back guarantee, so if you don't gain at least 400 rating while actively using our website, you get your money back. So, what are you waiting for? Visit the link below to get started on your own PvP journey today at skillcap.com. We've made a ton of videos this year introducing and expanding on our concept of arena archetypes. These are the common high-level playstyles that define each spec. For melee, we have brawlers and tacticians. Brawlers, as the name implies, are specs that thrive with high uptime and consistent pressure. They love to stay in the fight and gradually build momentum and train their target into the ground. This is your Fury Warrior or your Frost Death Knight. Brawlers have been a bit hit and miss in recent expansions, but in Dragonflight they've seen a lot of success so far. The Brawler is WoW PvP in its more primitive and pure form, running up to someone and wailing on them with a big hammer. You can't go wrong with a Brawler for an alt as long as you're able to know when to zug and when to play more defensively. Tacticians are the classes that focus on executing very precise set plays. It's the ability to line up Kidney Shot, Blind, and Shadow Dance with your teammates' Polymorph and Combustion. Tacticians can be the source of damage in a setup, or they can simply enable their teammates. Sub-Rogue has been an S-tier class even when its damage was bad, because it contributed so much control to RMP. Tacticians ask a lot more of you, but the best feeling that WoW PvP can offer is the experience of mind melding with your teammates to construct a perfect setup. But of course, these archetypes are not binary. Most melee DPS are hybrids, combining elements of structure with zuggy tendencies. This would be your Ret Paladin or Outlaw Rogue. These specs are a great way to find your way into Tacticians. As a Ret Paladin, you have the ability to play a structured game with shades of a Tactician, but you aren't committing to that life on the character creation screen. For caster DPS, we separate them into Wizards and Carries. They are distinguished along similar lines to the melee. Wizards favor consistent damage and consistent engagement. A classic example would be Affliction Warlock or certain flavors of Elemental Shaman. They succeed by building momentum through sustained damage. They want to keep the pressure on and never relent. These are often fun casters to play and easier to pick up as someone new to the role. Carries are casters who serve as a playmaker. Like Tacticians, they base their play around setups. We call them carries because when played well, the impact these specs can have is enormous. Many ranged DPS are a hybrid of these two extremes, such as Shadow Priests or Frost Mages. Finally, we distinguish healers between how much they interact with the enemy team. An interactive healer is typically aggressive, wanting to enable their teammates with high-tempo decisions. They love to dive in, spam some purges, disrupt the enemy, and toss out some damage. Resto Shaman and Disciplined Priests are the prime example of that. A non-interactive healer would be Mistweaver monks, who do have reasons to periodically engage the enemy, but are at their most comfortable when they are left to sit back and keep their teammates healthy. And Resto Druid shifts between these extremes. They are very comfortable at ranged, but love to make use of Cyclone, whose short range forces the Druid to push into the action. We've made no secret that the fastest way to succeed at picking up an alt is to pick up a spec within the same archetype as your main. If you're an Assassination Rogue, you will find Arms Warrior more familiar than Arcane Mage. A good Resto Druid has all the good habits needed to succeed on Mistweaver. By staying within your archetype, you maximize your transferable skills from one spec to the other. You don't need to learn core caster skills like fake casting. If you're looking to pick up a second character and immediately thrive, staying in your comfort zone is the most effective way to achieve success. But we've already told you this, so with the new expansion out, we want to take a minute to play Kill Jaden's Advocate. For a rogue main, Windwalker will potentially feel a bit samey. They're different classes for sure, but staying within your archetype, you've sought to minimize that difference. But it could be said that picking an alt because of its similarity to your main is perhaps missing the point of playing an alt in the first place. World of Warcraft has a diverse range of classes and specs to play, and Dragonflight has gone out of its way with its new talent system to add even more diversity and flexibility to each and every specialization. In our Wrath Classic alt guide, we spoke about how big of an investment it was to make an alt, so that decision carries a lot of weight. But in this Dragonflight alt guide, we're telling you the opposite. The investment is low, and so now is a great time to pick up something new and exciting to you. Take a risk, and to convince you, we have one more big reason. Ranked Solo Shuffle is, of course, Arena's new solo queue feature in Dragonflight. Certain players have been advocating for this feature for years, and it's finally here. It is one of the biggest shakeups to WoW Arena in its entire history. Arena has always been an organized, team-based activity. Social expectations are a factor in Arena, and if you just group up with a random LFG and silently queue 2v2 matches, there is an unspoken expectation that you will meet certain standards, be it performance, gear, or talent. In the past, entering the arena was a mission in itself. There was a lengthy journey from hitting max level and being able to hold your own in any sort of PvP. The fastest way to gear up is often to jump into arena as soon as possible, but getting a new character into the arena at all often meant navigating those social expectations. Sure, maybe your friends were more willing to play with an undergeared alt than LFG, but you still kinda knew they were doing you a favor. And if you are entirely reliant on LFG in order to queue, then you know what it is like to silently pray for your healer to show mercy after every loss, to just hit that Q button one more time. Players' reluctance to play with weak characters was not without good reason. In past expansions, gear scaling has been so aggressive that a 10 item level gap could sometimes feel insurmountable. If the shoe was on the other foot, would you want to queue with someone's alt sub-rogue who's 30% less powerful than the rogue on the other team? However, this creates an environment where undergeared characters don't have a place at all. It starves them of oxygen, and so anyone who does slip through is immediately met by a ladder that has no place for them. Even if you did have friends who would queue with your brand new sub-rogue, the enemy team was not so generous. Dragonflight tempers this issue with the crafted gear that we mentioned, but most importantly, through Solo Shuffle. Solo Shuffle removes the ability for social practices to control access to Arena. You really can just hit max level, hang out in Battlegrounds and World PvP for a few hours, then march straight into Solo Shuffle and expect to be competitive. On a game-wide level, this means that plenty of players will want to take alts into the arena far earlier than they previously could have. There's no reason not to queue for Solo Shuffle the moment you have the required 408 item level. And as a result, that creates the conditions that allow for a healthy, low CR environment for new characters to emerge. You can queue up in the worst possible gear and reasonably expect to find players in similar gear. And because Dragonflight and Solo Shuffle are much more generous with gear, the power gap closes much faster. You don't have a grueling climb to upgrade gear. You really can just mess around at low CR, in bad gear, and accrue best-in-slot conquest pieces from that. So all this is to say, staying in your lane is a way to achieve success, but isn't it kind of tempting to take advantage of all this? To just, suspend that drive to succeed in all areas of the game at all times and try something new? If you're a gladiator beast mastery hunter, doesn't all this kind of make you want to roll a disciplined priest and just throw yourself into Solo Shuffle like a gladiatorial ball pit? Just get in there and figure it out. Not even the cops can stop you. If you are tempted by the prospect of using low-rated solo for you to experiment with new classes and archetypes, what we ask is that you extend that same courtesy to others in that situation. Don't be toxic. Don't make players regret queuing up. The future of WoW PvP may rest on our ability to turn Solo Shuffle into a nursery for players new to our weird little minigame. And in doing so, we can create a space where we ourselves feel like we're able to play things we are wildly unqualified to be playing, where we can all just figure it out in an environment where success is not a prerequisite for participation. I don't know, that sounds pretty good. But no matter where your Dragonflight journey takes you, Skill-Capped is the best place to get started with your alts. Our class guides are like power-ups and are designed to quickly teach you how to start playing your alts as confidently as your main. This is all backed by our rating gain guarantee. If you don't see results while using our website, we give you your money back. So what are you waiting for? Visit the link below to kickstart your next PvP journey today. Anyway guys, that wraps it up for this one. Let us know in the comments below what classes you plan on playing this season, and tell us how your experience has been so far. As always though, we want to thank you all for watching. See you soon.